indie drama, a character drama, take it easy, try something small. You went huge on your first film. That is so much in the best possible way. Was that always the plan, that when you made your directorial debut, that you wanted to just go big?
You know, I think I just, yeah, I had a lot to say, I think. But, you know, for me, you know, just as a huge fan of the genre, you know, I wanted it to say more. I wanted it to do more than just be, you know, a barrage of just senseless punches and kicks upon, because after a while it starts to feel like a video game. It just kind of washes over you. So, you know, revenge at its core is such a maximal feeling. You know, it's only you know, truly can be expressed in a cinema. You know, otherwise you're literally certified insane or going to go to prison. So it needs as maximal a catalyst, you know, to kind of, so I wanted to kind of like drench this story in a lot of history, mythology, and you know, at the soul of this film, there's this beating heart, this mother, you know, that is, you know, this kid's best friend, his teacher. But yes, to answer your question, I made the film that young Dev would be excited to see, basically.
I mean, this was my second time seeing it. Absolutely blown away once again. Everybody here, you can feel the energy in the room. People, you know, are knocked out by this. Jordan, what was your experience of watching Monkey Man?
It was great. It was really good. Yeah, I mean, look, my whole job here was kind of fortunate and kind of easy in some ways, because it began with getting to watch an amazing film and basically acknowledging that it was incredible. And, you know, Dev brought me a cut of the film that was maybe 90% of where it is, and it was incredible. And so, you know, I think he was at a point in a director where he just basically needed another director who's been through a process like this, knows how difficult it is to say, holy shit. Just like what you said, like, what you've done is like gonna make your contemporaries really jealous. So now let's finish it, you know.
I mean, as a contemporary, as a fellow filmmaker, was there a shot or a sequence in this where you were like, why didn't I do this first?
I mean, there's tons. Honestly, that's kind of how, you know, with Monkeypaw Productions, I think we started with this idea of, you know, sort of fresh voices and new talent. And I think Dev is a fresh voice, but he's not a new talent. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he knew exactly what film he wanted to make. I love the rickshaw action scene, you know, just has so much character. As far as the action sequences go, I think my favorite moment might be the firework fight, which I just, you know, feel like it's at a point in the movie where it feels so generous and so beautiful and transcendent of the action genre.
So Dev, where does this all start for you? Like, as you say, I'm fascinated by everything in the film, not just the incredible action and the emotional story, but as you say, the sort of mythology, the political background to this, how you weave all of that together. What's the beginning of it for you?
This is just a mad moment. Just seeing these words up behind me this big. You know, it's crazy because it all starts on a blank white page, you know, and you're like, is this the title? Is it? I think at one point we labeled it Kid Unknown or something so lame. But anyway, sorry. Where did it start? It started with so you know, what got me into films was sneaking downstairs and watching Enter the Dragon through the banister. You know, way past my bedtime. I saw Bruce Lee, a man with, you know, similar complexion to me, dark hair, the most charismatic, you know, creature I'd ever seen on a TV, and that kind of began my obsession with cinema and action movies. And then it was, you know, Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Donnie Yen, Sammo Hung, you know, all of those amazing greats. And I was just a huge consumer of action films. And my dad has this chain around his neck with it's like a little Hanuman symbol. He's holding up a mountain in one hand. And as a kid, I would ask my dad, you know, what does that mean? And he's like, wait till your granddad comes back from Nairobi and he'll tell you the story better than me. and my granddad did come, and you know, he would sit in my box room and tell me these stories. And my favorite character from the mythology was Hanuman, and he, you know, this half man, half monkey kind of simian superhero, reminded me of the lore of like, you know, Superman splitting his chest open. But at the same time, I noticed he was a character that you know, lacked confidence at one point. And you know, when you look into the mythology, he lost faith in himself, and he needed to be reminded of who he was. And I was like, wow, okay, there's something. And the first image that came in my head was a literal performing monkey, you know, like a guy in this sweaty armpit of a wrestling ring, donning a cheap, you know, gorilla mask. And I had this image of the audience hurling trash at the lens, at him. And then it kind of worked up from there.
You mentioned the Superman moment there. Is that why we have the moment in the film where it's like, what if Superman was ripping his shirt open, but he's ripping his own chest open?
I think they pinched it from our mythology. I mean, we predate Superman. Come on. Yeah, no, there's so many little Easter eggs to, you know, the Diwali festival, like Jordan's talking about, the Festival of Light, and you know, people let off fireworks. We shove them in people's mouths in the movie. Yeah, it's kind of me trying to take that mythology and those core values and kind of give it a social context and a weight in today's world and today's India, really.
The other thing I want to pick up on is that you were talking about your granddad there. I believe he saw the film last night. Was he ready for what he was about to see? How did he react to it?
Man, you should have seen the car ride to the next place after. He was going off in the car. I've never seen him so animated. I was like, Jesus, is someone giving Granddad a drink or something? He loved it. And you know, he was very affected by me getting hurt in the film. He's like, I wanted to hit that man. He's touching you and fighting you and pushing you. And I was like, it's all right. It's okay.
Jordan, I want to ask about something you just picked up on. What makes this a Monkeypaw production for you? What is it that makes it part of this sort of legacy that you're building as a producer?
You know, this is Monkeypaw Productions. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what makes a Monkeypaw production, except to say, in some ways, it's a movie that feels like it isn't supposed to exist. Something that feels like it's taken a risk, or someone has taken a risk, and then at the same time, the artists and the team and the cast and crew have put together a project that transcends that risk and really speaks to everyone. So, you know, you can have a movie that is, you know, has some hardcore action, and it works for me, it works for my grandma, and, you know, it works for the kid who was just old enough to get a ticket, you know. So yeah, it's partly about taking a big swing, and it's also about loving the audience and attempting to leave no audience member behind.
Yeah. And Dev, what's that moment for you then when you're neck deep in this film and there's like, oh, we think we've got a producer on board, it's Jordan Peele. What is that moment for you? Was there a phone call? Was there a meeting? Tell me how that happened for you.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of, you know, catastrophe we faced on a daily basis with this film, and there's, you know, I was looking at my notes on my iPhone, and the amount of times I was composing and then not composing this kind of huge apology, mainly to my cast and crew for letting them down, you know, because there was many times where I thought this film was never going to see the light of day. And when we parted ways with Netflix, you know, I was really sad, and then I was shooting a low-budget horror film in Yorkshire, you know, and I get a call from my agent, and they're like, you know, have you heard of this guy, Jordan Peele? I was like, of course I have, and he wants to speak to you today. So we got on the Zoom call. It ended up being one of the most nourishing 3 hours of my life, and he asked me. I felt really seen, you know, and for him as a filmmaker who you know, he uses genre in such a clever way, you know, and you know, it is a Trojan horse. A lot of his films are Trojan horses, so they're accessing a wider audience but saying a lot. He totally understood the kind of mechanisms and triggers I was putting in this film, and he's like, I hope you don't mind. I've already shown it to Universal, and we want to release it theatrically. And I literally fell off my chair. It was like Slumdog. That film got dropped, and on paper it's like a foreign language film. There's not many comps, blah blah blah. And it took a really bold person to come in and resurrect it, and that's this man.
Yeah, so much again. Thank you, Dev. I mean, again, so much. I feel so fortunate to be able to be a producer, and obviously, when I saw this film, I just felt this huge sense of connection to Dev, and feeling like he's on the verge of being in this position that I recognize. Putting everything you got into something, and getting about to be able to present it to the world and see what happens. And so that connection, I just felt like, oh man, like first and foremost, I just want to assure you this is going to be a great ride, and everything you've done so far has paid off.
Dev, I have to ask, as somebody who grew up with Skins, the fact that this...
You bastard.
Yeah, anyone else in the Skins generation? It's our time. The long journey of this film to the screen has actually meant that you've released this the same year that Daniel Kaluuya has released The Kitchen, which he co-directed with Kibwe Tavares, which another fantastic film. This is the year of the Gen 1 Skins cast coming out of the gates with these incredible directorial features. Were you and Daniel messaging back and forth on your journey as directors? Have you guys caught up on that?
I texted him. I watched it actually very recently. I've been in a dark edit hole, and I sent him a long, gushing text. That man is formidable. He's always been just like this shining beacon of ferocity and talent. And we are all mere tadpoles in his existence. But he's been amazing. And he sent me a lovely email recently. He got to see the film, and it's great. I mean, all of those guys, everyone on that show, regardless of if they're in front of the camera, behind, they are truly some of the most talented people I've ever shared a screen with.
Yeah, and Jordan, I think you know Daniel Kaluuya. I think you guys...
I do. So I've never actually seen Skins.
I was like, are you the biggest Skins fan around?
Well, look, every time it's mentioned, it gets like a giggle. And I mean, so far there's two of the most talented dudes like that in modern film that have come from this. So I'm guessing the rest of the cast are just absolute beasts as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, who's next? Nicholas Holtz?
Yeah.
Kaya
All right. Well, see, there you go. So it ain't no joke. Skins ain't no joke.
The best endorsement for Skins, by the way.
But yeah, I mean, look, I see a real connection between Daniel and Dev as two very different performers, but they're both performers that I long to work with. And among their many qualities, one of the similarities that I love is that you're never going to see them do too much. You're never going to see them mug. You're never going to see them hit any kind of false note ever. And that's part of the trust that they build with their audience from the first second of their first film. And through every film that you've ever done, you've never betrayed that trust.
You haven't seen me in Skins, dude.
Now I have to. I'm going to download this tonight. I'll find out which episode, which is the most. Someone will.
Series 1, Series 2, Anwar Legend.
Yeah, all right, great.
So we've got to get into some of the madness that we've just watched unfold on the screen, and there is nowhere I would rather start than the moment where you're like, right, I'm gonna stab this guy in the neck, and then I'm gonna grab the knife with my mouth, and I'm gonna chew it up. And what I want to be playing over the top of that is Boney M. 10 out of 10, right there. Why Boney M?
It's a fucked up love letter to my parents, this film, in a way. And Boney M is Boney M, I grew up, Boney M's like the soundtrack to my childhood. Mum, when she's vacuuming the house, cooking, whatever, Boney M, Rivers of Babylon, Daddy Cool, I was like, I gotta get Boney M in there somehow. And we had these elevators play a kind of big part in the kind of structural system of this. And I was like, we're gonna have a joke. There's Tina Turner, I think, in the first one with him and Alfonso, and then and the lyrics are interesting when you think of this film too.
So have you shown that scene to your parents and gone like, this bit's for you, with the neck slice?
She actually picked up on that. She's like, "Did you put Boney M in there for me?" I was like, "Oh, Mommy's so sweet." But about the neck thing though.
There's something about the grittiest moments that it's like it feels like you want to score it with like comfort score.
Yeah.
Like something that makes you feel good.
It's so interesting what a piece of music can do though to action. You know, like I think action in general is it's very percussive. It's musical. You know. When you're with the stuntmen, there's like, you know, the grunts and grunts. Ah, ooh, ooh. It's like there's a kind of like, it's like stomp, you know, when you're in there. And you can change the tone of a scene, you know, by playing Boney M. All of a sudden, the most brutal violence people are chuckling and laughing at, and they're with him. You know, if I put something heavy metal on that, it would probably take you over the edge in another way. You know, the sequence with the fireworks, you know, we decided to, you know, originally there was a quote unquote like cool rock and roll song, and I didn't want to elicit the feeling of cool. I wanted to elicit the feeling of the mother. I wanted it to be this man that feels like he's getting overwhelmed, and you know, I wanted it to feel like a monologue, you know, but with his limbs, and so you know, I think that piece that you know is a singular instrument, you know, stringed instrument being played. It kind of is, you know, it kind of makes it this kind of brutal ballet, that piece.
I mean, the musical choices are excellent throughout. That metal moment, is that part of the score? Is that
called
like
Bloodywood, that band.
Bloodywood, so is that a South Asian metal band?
Yeah, and they're absolutely awesome. And when I heard that, I was like, this is going to be the Hydra entry tune. You know, they're literally like, die, die, die. But the lyrics, you know, all of their songs are really profound, and they really tackle, you know, huge issues of social injustice and violence against women. They're a cool band, so check them out.
And Jordan, I mean, you're no stranger to an incredible needle drop. And nothing's been the same since the I Got 5 on It.
Oh man, that was amazing, right?
Yeah, is that a big part of, how much of that was in Monkey Man by the time you came on board? Is that something that you kind of helped?
We helped eke out a couple more tracks. Just a couple of moments where, you know, we were able to sort of like say, hey, Dev, if you could put something in here that maybe you couldn't afford before, you know, what would it be? And he found a couple of incredible tracks. One was,
Wallet Passing.
The Wallet Passing. I mean, basically
that song.
Yeah, that at that moment.
And then the last song, and the credits song, which is.
So two really effective moments. I mean, the wallet moment just, it's something that gets everybody's head bopping at the same time, and I just love that for the film at that moment. And then your discovery of that last song is sort of exactly where we need to be. I mean, that, you know, the end image of the mother and sort of closing there is really touching, and that song is just so beautiful. So two huge moments that wouldn't be there, I think, if you didn't push.
Credit to him, because I didn't think we could put a song at the end after, and he's like, you know, what you leave the audience with over Black is actually just as important as what was playing, you know, on picture, you know, and to let them sit in a feeling. And I think he's a British artist called Face Soul, called Grow. The song is beautiful, beautiful song, lyrically.
You touched before on the Hanuman of it all. I want to get into some of the other stuff in the film, this sort of wider political context that you kind of weave in, the social context. Can you unpack a little bit of that? Because I think you're going to be bringing this to a lot of audiences who, you know, aren't as informed or as involved. Why was that a big part of the film for you, and how did you weave that into the personal revenge story?
Kind of came first. Like I always, you know, it's a revenge film about faith, is the way I pitched it to our financiers at the front, you know, at the beginning of the process. And you know, faith is, you know, an incredibly powerful entity in the world. You know, it can be, you know, used to deadly effect. You know, you can manipulate it and mobilize a large mass of people into violence, and at the same time, it can, you know, be a great teacher, particularly to this child in this film who grew up uneducated in a forest, you know, and those iconographies, those stories instill in him you know, a sense of, you know, a moral compass, you know. And so that duality of faith, you know, exists throughout the film, you know, the monetization of it. And so, you know, you've got a character grappling with faith in himself and in this icon that he grew up with. And so that was kind of, you know, what I was trying to tackle in the film. Yeah.
And Jordan, is that a part of what kind of attracted you to this film as well? Because it feels like your films are very much about characters caught within these bigger social structures that they're trying to kind of navigate.
Yeah, you know, I feel that the underdog is part of what works about our movies, and the idea of fighting a system of some sort is really important. You know, I think I love the way Dev has approached this, you know, the social message, because it's not in a way where you sort of come out of it feeling like the director yelled "message" at you. You know,
He hasn't bitten your nose off.
that's yeah, he hasn't bitten your nose off with the message twice. And I think that's how really, you know, that's how that's how a lot of people, you know, really like their films. They like to be led with story. They like to be led with character. They like to be led with emotion, and then left to unpack what it was about afterward. And that's what really makes it a movie with a capital M for me.
Yeah. We have to talk about the crazy action. Dev, I understand you broke your hand in the making of the film. And it led me to wonder, there's that moment in Mission Impossible Fallout where Tom Cruise jumps across the roof and you see his foot and you're like, oh, his foot snapped in that moment. I don't know if anybody knows this, but also in The Two Towers when Viggo Mortensen kicks that helmet, he broke his foot on The Lord of the Rings.
You're amazing.
Do we see the shot in this where you broke your hand? Is there a moment where if you go back, you're like, that's the moment where my hand broke?
I think so. Yeah.
Wait, which
because I broke my toes 2 weeks before we started filming. Oof. And niggly, but it's very painful when you're like stopping and spinning on a dime. So that was, you know, they were cutting the shoes open to fit the foot in and stuff like that. And then the first action scene in the bathroom fight, you know, where the floor's wet and we were going for it, and I heard my hand, you know, snap. And I was like, oh, this is bad. And I went to Joe, our producer. I was like, dude, I'm telling you, it's broken. And, you know, at this point, we'd already been, you know, told by the financier that the film was going to be shut down like a few weeks before. And we managed to claw our way from that and carry on going. So I was like, if we tell them this, and obviously, you know, I finished filming the rest of the day, and it was like, that nerve pain of the bone just flicking going up my head, and I'm each crawl on the floor in the bathroom, and the pain was real. And then by the end of the day, it was hard to conceal because the hand had kind of ballooned up to like a big extent, and you know, we couldn't put a cast on it because we didn't have the budget to VFX this cast out. So the film was essentially down again. You know, it was a catastrophe, and someone found. You know, this cheap private medical jet that would allow the insurance company we could tell them we kept this COVID bubble. So that night after filming, we boarded this jet, we went to Jakarta, a doctor put a screw in the bone, and I went under, that happened, and then we flew right back to set the next day. And then we carried on shooting the scene. And the doctor's like, you cannot put more than a pound or two of pressure on this hand, because if you bend that nail, it's like pulling a bent nail out of wood, like you'll ruin your hand. And I remember the first thing I did was I looked at Joe, and then, you know, I call action and then go and run out this window and bounce off it like 8 times. But it was a lot of, so many injuries. And the crew actually, someone had got a hold of the X-ray of the screw, and they turned it into a crew T-shirt. This was the one screw that kept the production together. Yeah.
So how much did you have to reinvent the choreography to account for the fact that you could only use
so like that kitchen fight, you know, was so much more ferocious in the original choreography when you have 2 hands, but I was grabbing all of the things with 1 hand, so I had to grab the knife, do that, then block. So it's actually more cumbersome. Hopefully you didn't feel it too much when you watched it, but it's there. You see it post-op in Queenie's scene when I kind of lift the hand up, and it just kind of, the continuity with my hand is terrible throughout the movie.
The one-handed ass kicking is probably a cool
So
thing
cool.
in the end.
Yeah, yeah.
It really.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is the tame version. You put a man's head on a grill and smash a bottle of alcohol over it, and it sets on fire. That's not tame. There's one thing that I was really closely looking out for on this watch, because the first time around I was like, wait, did he just do that? And I think you did. You have at least one, maybe more, point of view shots in the middle of the action. The camera is your head, and then someone like punches the camera out of your head.
Yes.
That is so cool.
Yeah, again, it's like, you know, because of the time that we were filming it in, and you know, we were meant to build a staircase to do that scene and shoot it properly, and we couldn't afford it. We ran out of time, so we literally shot that's the staircase to the production office, and we couldn't get wide enough to cover the action. And you know, whenever you're faced with an obstacle, you know, you have to turn it into an opportunity. So I was like, okay, we need this scene, we need this bit of connective tissue. What can I do? Let's strap the camera to the cameraman's chest, and let's give him the same trousers as me. So I'm following him, and he's performing as me. And then I was like, okay, we can, on a hook, we can knock the consciousness or the camera, the POV out, and I can enter and slide in. And it was a way to actually cover the staircase fight without having to take too much time. And we had this, you know, Sony camera that I'd bought, and we used that. But there's, you know, on the rickshaw crash, there's, you know, footage from my mobile phone because the light was coming up. Our other camera broke. And, you know, we're on an island in Indonesia, and we can't fly another piece of equipment in. So I was like, take my iPhone inside the tuk-tuk. So there's a shot in there that you see. We couldn't get the water tank we needed when I got shot. So Joe, who's standing there, my producer, we went to Argos and bought a foam, you know, cover, and in the edit suite, we shot me in a bathtub screaming. And so big, ugly pixel that you see is me, you know.
This is like a director porn.
Yeah.
This is like the sexiest thing I've ever heard is Dev talk about this shit.
What I'm hearing is that this entire film was saved by one nail and a trip to Argos.
Yeah. But it's, yeah.
I think the most dangerous thing you did in this film, though, was that you dared to put on a tux, because as soon as you put on a tux, everybody's gonna think about a certain secret agent, and I have to say, I feel guilty because I felt that too, and then I hated myself for thinking that. Did that cross your mind where you're like, is there any way I can not wear the tux so that I don't have to put up with that?
I gotta say, man, you know, that's just like a hat tip to all the amazing badass Korean, you know, revenge icons. You know, everyone's point of reference is obviously John Wick, which is amazing, but you know, if you're a fan of Korean revenge cinema, those guys are the most badass, brooding, you know, wordless heroes that you'll see. Yeah.
We're not going to have time to get to it, but I have Old Boy and the Villainess written down here as things that sprung to mind.
Yeah. A bittersweet life, Man from Nowhere, Old Boy, I Saw the Devil. You know, they're just.
You were referencing Bond.
I know. I was trying to segue out of that. A rubber mask is better than a Walter PPK.
It's the wise move.
Yeah.
We're going to have to wrap up in just a minute, but I guess for both of you, well, first of all, everybody here has seen the film in a cinema tonight, and it's heading out to cinemas wide. What does it mean to both of you to have this film on the big screen?
Well, it means the world to me. It means that first of all, it means that this amazing film is going to find its audience, and I love that. I love the crowd. I love the audience. I'm so enthusiastic about the theatrical experience, and I feel like this film is a perfect testament to why it's important, you know, for us to be able to kind of come in here, watch this story together, and leave with this in common, and then we go stream it later. So anyway, I'm just so proud that, you know, Monkeypaw got to be a small part of this incredible journey that Devin and his team have gone on.
And for you, Dev?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just the ultimate dream. Like, cinema for me is like, you know, we all come in here, no matter what social status, race, you know, gender, you all sit down, face forward, and wait for the mysterious journey ahead. And you know, it's the greatest equalizer, cinema. And you know, I've had some of the most profound experiences of my life. You know, I remember watching, we were really struggling as a family, and I went to watch Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith, and that changed my life, that movie. It really did. And it kind of instilled in me a resilience that I probably used for this film. So cinema is everything, and for me to be able to express my the duality of my culture and my identity, my ancestry, you know, to have an action film like this out there, you know, to share with you guys is a dream come true, and I hope you liked it.
Have you got a second film in the tank? I ask right as you're about to put this one out.
Dude, I don't know. I haven't thought that far yet.
And Jordan, what about you? We know you have something coming up. Nope was out of this world, and I don't mean that as a pun. Incredible work. I can't wait to see what you do next. It's coming next summer. Where are you at with that right now?
No pressure.
You know, I'm currently writing, and yeah, I'm happy. You know, it's been a couple of years, and part of the process of developing a story, I suspect it'll be for you as well, is, you know, you have to have a little bit of dormancy. You have to have a little time to watch again and watch the world around you and take it in. So I feel like, you know, I've been waiting to have a premise and an idea that would be my best movie that I've ever made or ever seen, and that's what I'm writing.
We got that incredible Nope teaser poster revealing the title. Are we going to get a title soon and an early peek somewhere?
Probably not.
Honestly, I'm glad to know I can.
You can relax, but keep looking for it.
Yeah, we will. Well, can we have a huge round of applause, please, for Dev Patel and Jordan Peele? Thank you, everybody, for coming. We really hope you enjoyed the film.